A lot of you have written in and said how angry you are at misconceptions and how people are uneducated. And I keep saying it's like twigs on a fire, that eventually we're going to get a bonfire going. If we say it enough and say it often enough, people are going to start to hear and listen, right? So I like to take apart a myth at a time and shed a little light on it. And so we refer to this as myth number 10. And it is that the myth is that there's no such thing as recovery from autism. And I'm happy to report that that is a myth. But I want to clarify exactly what I mean by that. There is the possibility of recovery from autism. That's absolutely possible. You just saw Nick Yates in the clip that we ran before this, and he recovered from autism. And he's not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. What do I mean when I say recovery? Well, I would encourage you that there's a place on the Center for Autism and Related Disorders where they talk specifically, in fact, Dr. Adele Nadowski gives a wonderful video explanation of CARD's position on recovery. And my position on it is very similar to theirs, but as a parent, it's, you know, just ever so with a child that's moving towards recovery. I guess I have my own little flair for it. But the Center for Autism and Related Disorders says that in order to be considered recovered from autism, you need to be looked at by independent third party who does testing and does not find autism as a part of your diagnosis. That, you know, somebody looks at you and they do not say that you have autism, that is one aspect of it, but that you also need to be in completely included, typical developing classroom and getting a C or better, so you're passing your classes, and that you need no extra support to get through your life and be functioning with the rest of your life. So that those three things together, at that point, you know, you don't qualify for the autism diagnosis according to an expert. You're not needing any extra supports, and you are doing fine in school without any extra supports. And a lot of people like to think of recovery. They don't like the word recovery, and so they like to say virtually indistinguishable from your peers. Okay. I don't know why there is this stigma attached to the word recovery, to the point where you need to say virtually indistinguishable from your peers. But if that's something that makes you more comfortable, okay. For me as a parent, I like to add in that, because what I want for my child, we can talk about recovery, we can talk virtually indistinguishable from peers, but what I want for my child is for him not to be held back from the things that he wants to do in any substantive way. And I mean all the things that he wants to do, like make a friend, like be able to go up to a child in a playground and be able to introduce himself and start to play with a child and get along with a child, like get through his day and solve the problems that he needs to solve, like go to college and live in the dorm and be a happy individual, like become the rocket scientist that he wants to be able to do, that I don't want for him to be held back in any way. So that's part of it for me as well. And I want you to know that on my journey through autism, I've had the great opportunity to meet many young people and adults who have been deemed recovered, and they're amazing. They're just amazing. And I gotta tell you that I feel bad for them sometimes because a lot of kids just don't let the world know who they are. And I can completely understand why, because the minute that the young people who do come out and say, yes, as a child, I had autism, here's my videos of when I was a child, here's what I did, and here's how I am now, I certainly am one of the people who looks at them and because I want to see everything about them. They just are amazing to me. They're so beautiful to me because I'm looking at them and going, okay, my child was once, you know, where you are, and this is a possibility, really. Very exciting to me. And I know that it's probably a great deal of pressure for them. So we can all understand why more and more of these kids don't come forward. A lot of them are college students where their peers have no idea that they ever had an autism spectrum diagnosis. Some of them are out professionals working in the world, and they're just not telling people because there's no need to. But there are a select group of young people who have come forward and said, yep, that was me, and that do take the opportunity to speak about it. And that's a wonderful thing too. But I want you to know that the fact that there aren't thousands of them doesn't mean that there aren't thousands of them out there. They like to be private about that part of their lives because when the few who have come forward, it creates a lot of attention. And a lot of it's positive, but it's still, we've had Nick on the show. We just showed the clip of him, and Nick comes on the show from time to time and says, here's the thing, I want to speak out for the parents so that they know what's possible. But as I go through my life, I just want to be known as Nick, not Nick who had autism. And we can all certainly appreciate that, I'm sure. But I do want you to know that for autism, recovery is possible. It is something that is out there. It's very possible. That studies have shown that with the right amount of therapy over the right amount of time and quality ABA therapy, that about 47% of our kids will reach that point of recovery. Isn't that amazing? And it's not just one study, it's multiple studies. 47%. And all the studies that have been done have been right around that number, 47%. It's really very amazing. Okay, great. What happens to the other 53%? And I got to tell you for me, that's really happy news too, because for those other 53% that didn't make it to recovery, they have tremendous progress. There's usually two separate categories, one that makes really tremendous progress, but doesn't reach the point where they're virtually indistinguishable. My son is right there right now. He's made tremendous progress. He's going to have a full and meaningful life, but he's not virtually indistinguishable from his peers right now. And then there's another group that usually has some companion diagnosis as well as autism, twice exceptional, sometimes people refer to it, but they usually have something else going on as well as the autism, and they still make progress too, really substantive progress around things like toileting and communicating, functional communication skills, all those adaptive skills, things along those lines. I still count that as tremendous progress. So again, everybody on the spectrum, tremendous progress using quality ABA for the proper amount of time, given in the proper not only the duration of time in terms of how often a week, but the number of years, right? Depending on the severity of their condition and their age. But everybody is going to make progress. Isn't that a wonderful thing? It's an absolutely wonderful thing. So I encourage you to look at the studies to see what's there, but recovery is possible. Let's not take away from that 47% who have made it there by bugging it. It does exist. I encourage you to, take a look and see what's possible. And that for that other 53%, tremendous progress. But the huge asterisk is it has to be quality ABA therapy. It has to be given for a proper amount of time, which in all cases means a minimum of 2 years, a minimum of 2 years. If you did ABA therapy and you say to yourself, you're saying to me or to somebody else, it really just didn't happen for us, it really didn't work, and if you did anything less than 2 years, it wasn't enough. And then, of course, there's the duration, the number of hours per week. And we know that 25 to 40 hours a week is really the only window in which you get those kinds of results. So you may have done ABA for 2 years, but if you did it at 5 or 8 or 10 or 15 hours, I got to tell you, it's not enough to get to that result window. You may still have had good results, but you got to get to that window to get the best. Studies have shown it time and time again, 25 to 40 hours. Now that's a whole other kettle of fish, right? Because that becomes a funding thing. Stay tuned to the show because we'll be talking about how do you fund that? How do you make that happen? But one of the things that I'll tell you right out the gate is that you have the possibility now as a parent to be a part of that team and to be continuing ABA therapy even after your funding hours are over and your therapists have gone home. You can do that through CARDI Learning, and you can use skills as a companion piece for it to be getting more hours for your child. Don't give up. We don't give up on anybody, right? Stick with us. Tell us how we can help you. Tell us what your biggest problem is in getting to at least 25 hours. Is it the funding? Write into me. Tell me what state you're in, and we'll try to help you to see what options are available to you and what grants are available to you. If it's simply having the time, if it's that you're working and that you don't, write in. Tell us why you can't get to 25 to 40 hours. I really want you to be at 30 hours. I really want you to be at 30 hours. And tell me why you think you can't so I can help you with that. It's so important to you. It's so important to your child. It's important to the rest of your life. So stick with us here on Autism Live. Write into me and tell me what's holding you back, and I'll help you to sort it out.